Well, you join me once more in the middle of a job where there's no information on the internet. I'm in the process of changing the engine mounts on the 1HD-FTE engine. I've got my new mounts here, which to be honest, I've had in a box for about 3 years, putting this job off, and I decided that now is the time for me to fix them, because the old ones, apparently they might be a bit screwed. I'm not going to do an awful lot of filming here because this is a complicated job and I've got to lift the engine and a whole bunch of other stuff, but what I will show you is how I get access to the bolts and a few tricks that I learned during the process, because I got to swap my old Guff ones for these shiny new ones from Toyota. Let's get to it. Right folks, here's what you're going to need to get kicked off on this job. 14mm spanner and a 17. You'll need some spare bolts, maybe 80mm long, M6, M8 is good. You need a ratchet of some sort with the 14mm, because sometimes you'll need to access the top and the bottom. Breaker bar, just to get myself started on the 17mm nuts, so it doesn't hurt if you've got a breaker. And a few torches. And the crowbar, because you're probably going to need to move the engine around a little bit in order to get the bolts located once you've jacked the engine up. And you'll need a jack. And a few blocks of wood. Oh, and for your initial disassembly, you'll need 7, 10 and 12, just for the initial injector pump cover and airbox and stuff. You'll need little sockets for that. I was surprised, however, that I did not need any wobbly sockets or fancy bendy ratchets or anything like that. It was pretty straightforward for access. I didn't need any fancy U-joint type stuff. Let's see if I can convince this car to go down into low mode. I'd rather not jack it up when it's at full height. There's a suspicious oil stain on my driveway. I'm just going to hope that that's not one of my cars. You're probably going to see me move through multiple changes of clothes in this video, but hopefully you can not hold that against me. I just keep getting soaked and I haven't been able to do this all in a single day. It is what it is. To get started, let me try and give you a bit of a summary of the bolts that you will encounter. The top of each engine mount, just below the injection pump here, the top you can see there's a 17mm nut, that's just to the centre of the screen. The front is a captive 14mm head. The rear of the engine mount, it's a 14mm bolt, and it also has a 14mm nut at the bottom. So when you're removing that one, you need access top and bottom. Access is a bit of a pain. On this side it's relatively straightforward. You just have to remove the injector pump cover, which I've done. And on this side you'll have to remove the airbox and also the piping that heads down towards the turbo. Here's how it looks on the driver's side, which is the right side of the vehicle. You've got a 17mm nut at the top, a 14mm at the front of the engine mount, and at the back those same two 14s. Bolt on top, nut on the bottom. However, on this side you can see it's way more difficult to access because you've got airbox and ABS pump, wastegates in the way, sensors are in the way. This is the side that's trickier to get access to at the top, so you're not going to be able to see as much of what's going on, but fortunately you can get access to everything from underneath, especially if, like me, you no longer have a catalytic converter in play, because then you can get your arms down beside it. This is a simple one, but I took the cover off for the injector pump. It comes off in two pieces, just 10mm and 14mm bolts, and that gives me much better access down here. Now I can actually see what's going on. Ugh. I think that used to be a 17mm. That'll be interesting to get out. Compare that to the new one. That's a 17mm there. There's not much nut left on that. Let me hit that with the induction heater before I do anything else. It broke immediately. It's having some sort of thermal cutout. So Dave's got that back now and he's going to try and fix it. 3/8 breaker with a long socket on the end, 17mm. Plenty of access now. Oh, easy. Once again, the wee laddie ratchet comes in very handy. I wish I could remember who called this the wee laddie, but it's a brilliant name for it. It's great. A wee laddie! Here's where I am under the driver's side here, so that's the right side of the vehicle. And behind, there's the front of the car, behind the drive shaft, I'm able to get an arm in here to get my little 14mm socket onto my 14mm ratchet on to the bottom. And fortunately, because of my VCAT downpipe, I can get my hand up and over the diff mount, which gives me a chance to get my 14mm spanner on the top. These came off pretty easily, so I can get enough space to slowly ratchet my two 14mm off here. working in this area, you're going to get mud and dust in your eyes. So either safety goggles or don't lie immediately underneath the work area, because you are going to get dust. Right, let's see how I do the front engine mount 14mm, because I'm not sure yet. Everything has to happen from the front, underneath the radiators. So I can get two 14mm spanners. Sorry, the focus is a problem. Everything is a problem. I've tried with breaker bar, I've tried the sockets. I can't get sockets and ratchets down here, but it looks like the ratcheting spanner alone is enough to get this moving. Actually, that's really loose. Can I now get my fingers in there? Just took a torch to the fucking face. Okay. Right. Two 14s are removed on each side. I've completely removed the 17mm from my passenger side, and I've left it on with a few threads, 17mm, on the top of this side. That's because I don't want the engine to shift. So you can see I've got a little 17mm still attached down the bottom there. I don't want the engine to come off and run away down my driveway. But now, and only now, I'm going to jack up the engine with some blocks of wood. And by the way, I need to do a review on this book, because it's absolutely terrible. Because, like, it says here, remove engine mounting bolts. Like, that's all the instruction that it has for removing the engine. Remove bolts, draw the rest of the aisle. Like, I'll do a full review on that book, but don't buy it. Anyway, let's jack this thing up. Gotta be honest, I wasn't overwhelmed with good places to jack this up. So what I settled on was under here and jacking on the bell housing where the engine meets the gearbox. I have loosened the two 17mm nuts that keeps the gearbox mount in place, so that's loosened off. I've left a few threads on there so that it doesn't come off and unseat. But yeah, I've jacked that up about as much as I dare, because if I go any higher, it'll start to fill the radiator shroud. Now, I've probably got more space than you will because I've got an inch of body lift, but if we have a look down here, I've got some clearance. Hopefully this is enough to get this removed. Now, I'm going to go to the other side because I've kept my 17mm in here, so I'll go and do the other side first. Take my torch with me. And of course, everything's slower because I'm trying to film. I've got some separation there. It's really moved quite a lot. Hopefully that will settle back down again. You know, it'll slide towards the centre of the car, because those two bolts are now nowhere near each other. Not entirely sure how I'm going to get that engine mount out of that hole, so I'll just give it a chat from the top. Easiest way to get this out is actually to rotate it, and then I was able to get it out of position. There we go. That looks very different to my other one. Oh no, wait. It's fine. The good piece is underneath. Let's take this to the bench and have a look. Looks like some sort of just a steel casing for the top. And those are my before and afters. Now, I wonder if I can tell any difference thickness if I stand them. Ooh, shit. Don't have enough hands, really. I'll measure them. Okay, old one is at 47.4. New one, 49. So 1.5 millimeters shorter. I mean, it's got some rubber wear there, but not falling apart or anything. Maybe becoming unsealed a little bit at the top here, but they're not ruined. Well, I mean, you tell me, that you folks maybe will know better than I. That doesn't look ruined to me. But anyway, we'll get the new one on, hopefully. Same again on this side. Gave it a bit of a chap with a hammer. Oh, my fingers aren't long enough. Gave it a bit of a chap with a hammer. This time it just fell right out, so I'll pull that one and have a look. Couldn't get the covering to come off this one, so a little percussive persuasion with the hammer needed, I think. Alright. Sorry, some of these camera angles are a bit dodgy because I'm not on a tripod today. So there's a little bit of separation at the bottom there. Maybe a little bit delaminated at the top. But really they're not bad. They're not bad after 23 years. 47 again. The new mount in place, just with a little bit of thread on the 17mm, and then I'm going to lower that into position, and hopefully the 14mm positions will just line up neatly too. Let me show you on this side. Oh, everything's soaked. Got a few threads on the 17mm nut on the top, and I'm hoping as I lower the jack that these will slide neatly into place. But in fact they did not slide into place. Well, that's absolutely not dropping into the same position that we started in. I wonder what the hell I'm going to do now. Because I can't move 400 kilograms of engine on my own. I'm going to have to take a break here, but there's my problem. My engine has slid backwards because I'm working on a slope. And I can't quite get everything into position. So here's what you should do. You should take a longer bolt, M6 or so, about 80mm, and you drop that into place on the engine mounts. In fact, that one is a washing machine transport bolt, but it does the same job. Take these and drop them either side of the engine mount, and that will encourage the engine to rise vertically when restrained by these bolts, rather than be able to slip off down the hill or one side or the other. Drop 2 longer bolts in and jack up with these in place to try and stabilise. Now, you might not have to do this if you're not working on a god-awful slope like I am. I just want that to stay located on the engine mount here. And I've got another bolt on the other side there. I just want to use them to try and hold the engine mount in position, because the other side here, it's hard to see, but this one has slipped quite a lot. So that slipped all the way to the left-hand side of the car. So it's gone left and back. And that means that when I drop the jack again, it's not going to be seated correctly. This is going to be a pest for me to resolve, and I might need to use an engine crane. We'll see. What I did was to jack the engine back up and then secure the engine mount with the 17mm nut so that that held it in place and it would follow with the engine. Then all I had to do was jack the car up and down with those locating bolts in place until it got into the right spot again, that I could drop the 14mm into place. I did have to use my crowbar just a little bit, but there is a good spot, at least on this side of the engine, where you can lever against the upper control arm mount without having to damage any of your components. So this side's proven a little trickier to locate, but I've got 2 bolts in the other side, and there is a limited amount of movement you can do with a crowbar or a pry bar here. If you catch it between the engine mount and the top of the upper control arm bracket, you can lever there and get it to move just a little bit. You can give it a bit of a shaky, which is what I did, and it dropped into position. I think I've got both bolts ready now. That one, a little temporary locating bolt, is in place, and this one, I think I might finally have that lined up. I'll try and drop a little bolt down that. Whoa, jackpot, that is all the way through and through. I wonder, can I get the other one in then? Oh, it's close, but it'll go. Nice. Here's what you want to be doing. You want to get the 17mm lined up, and there is a hole behind there, I promise. It's quite hard to see, but behind that there is a little, can I give it a little clean? Cleaned it at the expense of my finger. See, there is a hole there. So you want to get the stud lined up with that hole and get the 17mm through there, and I tightened that all the way. Then the front bolt goes into a captive nut. So you just want to try and get the 2 bolt holes located as best you can. I've got a bolt in that one, and I've got a bolt in that one. I'm now going to use my 14mm spanner to wind this one in tight into the captive nut. And I did it with hand first because I don't want to strip it. So I'm just going to slowly tighten that one up. And then underneath the car, I need a bolt and a ratchet to sort out the other 14mm. So I'm now underneath the passenger side, that's the left side for me here in the UK, and access is a piece of cake. I can get my hands and arms in here no problem to do this one, The front is a little trickier, but I can access it from the front near the radiator again, or from the top, because that one's just a captive nut, so I don't need to access top and bottom. There's a drip going right in my mouth from this radiator. It tastes disgusting. But this is my last bolt. I've got them on that side. It's looking pretty good. Looks like we're in good shape on that side there. Working to tighten this one down. It gets pretty tight now. I don't think I'm cross-threading it. I pulled it out for a look, but goodness, it's tight at this point, and this is the very last bolt that I've got to put down. And I've got to squish my arm in next to this, what's that, radiator pipe? But I'm trying to remove as little as possible and still get this job done. This last one's tricky though. Now, I don't have a very scientific way of measuring engine vibration, but I do have a way that is very unscientific and delicious and relaxing. Whew, it's busy out here at the moment.
Five minutes later.
Right, test drive complete. What I can report is that it is much smoother when going over bumps. I didn't know I really had a problem before. I was just doing this on a suspicion of bad engine mounts, but there's definitely an improvement, especially when I'm hitting speed bumps. It's not really a clang, but there's definitely a big thud that I was getting when I was going over a speed bump. But the other thing is that I had movement in my gearbox, my automatic shifter. I replaced the transmission mount and it made no difference at all. The engine mounts, however, it has taken away the slop. Well, not slop, it's just there's been movement while I'm driving. The shifter itself has been moving around. That's gone now. All right, in total, looking at about maybe 3 or 4 hours to do this job. You could probably do it in less. It took me 3 or 4 hours, and that's with me having to jack up the engine again and try and figure out that thing with the locator bolts. So if you follow my tips, you'll save yourself that bother. Try and do it on a dry weekend, because it's been rubbish doing this in the wind and the rain with the storm that we've had here. Definitely recommended if you've got an old Land Cruiser, get the genuine Toyota parts. I'll put the part numbers in the description down below. And yes, you can do this because it's just a 17mm and 2 14s. No induction heater needed. It was relatively straightforward, and you can get your arms in once you've removed the engine tray from underneath. So definitely recommended. Give it a try. It's not all that difficult. It was easier than I thought it was going to be, and I just needed one jack for the engine. I thought I was going to have cranes and all sorts, but I got off lightly. I hope that was useful. Please do subscribe if you want to see more Land Cruiser content. If there's more tips or information you want to see, let me know in the comments down below. Hit like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you for watching. Make good decisions, and I will see you in another video very soon. I do hope. In fact, definitely, yes. I've got like videos every week at the moment. Bye, everyone.